Hello and welcome to the Night Feed. I'm your host, Charlotte, here to bring you some comfort, camaraderie, and conversation and keep you company during, let's face it, one of the toughest parts of being a new parent, the Night Feed. Tonight's unpaid sponsor is getting dog poo on the pram wheel and wheeling it all the way through the hall. Oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it? I don't have a dog myself, so it was somebody else's dog poo that got on my pram wheel yesterday morning. I was having one of those mornings, and when you've got a little one as well under your feet and you realise it's all the way through the hole and they've probably walked in it as well, it's a bit of a pain, isn't it? Luckily, I was planning to mop yesterday and I've been putting that job off for too long between you and I. And it actually fell on quite a good day. But it's the little things like that, isn't it, that can just really turn your day upside down. Welcome back to the Night Feed, and welcome to all my lovely new listeners who have started listening the last few weeks. I've seen a real spike lately, which is brilliant. And I just thought, for those of you who are new here, I just introduce myself again. So I'm Charlotte, I'm the host of this podcast, and I have two girls, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I am currently pregnant with our third, a little baby boy. I'm due in May, so I will be well and truly back living those sleepless nights with you in just, 2.5 months? This pregnancy, I'm telling you, it's gone so fast. It feels like minutes ago that we found out. And I think it's because when you have other children, things speed up, don't they? When it's your first, I mean, if you're anything like me, I was on the app all the time, like, oh, she's now the size of an apricot. And you would be so invested in what they look like now and what the size is now. And it's not because you care any more or less. It's because your days are taken up so much by other babies that it gets to 6.5 months into your pregnancy and you go, oh, we'll have a baby in a couple of months. So we're really excited. It's just amazing how time flies. And I've had some really lovely messages lately about how the podcast is helping you through the nights. And it's genuinely really lovely to hear, as podcasting, as you can probably imagine, can feel a little bit like posting it out there to the abyss without a soundboard, without anyone interacting or responding, and just hoping that people are listening and enjoying it. So I want you to know that each and every review, email, direct message that you send in gives me such a huge boost. It really, really does. I read them all. I respond to them all. So please keep them coming, because I really do love hearing from you. And I was actually thinking of ways we could bring our community closer, as at the moment it's kind of a one-way chat, really. I mean, it's predominantly a solo podcast, this. I do have guests from time to time, but I was thinking of ways we could make it a bit more of a two-way conversation, and ways that I could maybe hook you guys up as well, so that you can create a little community and we can almost have a little village where we have this conversation between us. And it got me thinking about doing a live episode of the podcast, probably on TikTok. And I wanted to see what you thought. My idea is that I would record the podcast as normal, but have it live streamed and have a section where you can ask me questions live. And if you want to, you can come onto the podcast and have an actual chat via the live stream. Just an idea I had to make it a little bit more conversational for one of the episodes and see how it goes. So if you think that's a good idea, drop me a DM on TikTok or Instagram, or email me, thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. I went shopping earlier, child free, as my mum's got them. And isn't it just mental how much you can get done, even in like an hour or two, when someone else is watching your baby or your toddlers? I sometimes actually feel like I should be wearing a cape, because the amount I have just ticked off in an hour is phenomenal. But then other times I just chill and eat, and that's absolutely fine too. We all need to rest. But I went shopping, And I was looking for a certain product in the shop, and I'd been looking for quite a while. So I thought, I'll just ask someone. So I went over to this shop assistant and asked if she knew where said product was. And I don't know if you've ever had this before, but she genuinely looked up at me like she wanted to kill me with her bare hands. And it was that bad that I kind of started stepping backwards, wishing I'd never started the interaction. But the funny thing is she ended up being really friendly. And you never know what people are going through, do you? But she was actually really nice in the end. And peace was restored. And then I had my almost cathartic lone shopping trip, which podcasting, no one telling me, oh, you look like you've got your hands full. No one demanding baby bells as a bribe to get around the shop in peace. It's funny what can be cathartic as a mum, though, isn't it? Even like car journeys with a podcast is so relaxing to me now, when that was just part of my daily life pre-kids, and you take it for granted so much, your time pre-kids, don't you? And I think it's only until you become a mum you think, what did I do with that time? But yeah. But I wanted to share with you actually something else that I thought was really funny the other day. And it's not necessarily mum related, but the comments on this TikTok made me howl. And I was putting the girls down. That my youngest was asleep, and I was holding my eldest hand while she fell asleep. And when you know that they're asleep, but you kind of want to stay there a bit longer to make sure. So I thought, I'll have a little scroll on TikTok. And I came across this video. Well, it's just a quote. So this is the question, and then the comments just had me cracking up, and I just thought it might make you give you a little bit of a laugh. So it says, name your ex, but as a brand. The more brutal, the better. So we'll start off strong with the first comment. Super dry, because that's what he made me. Next one is Every. If you don't know what Every is, it's a UK delivery service. And it says Every, because it always ends up at someone else's house. Next one, Feeler, because I couldn't feel a thing. Mamas and Papas, because he was still joined at the umbilical cord. Rolex, because he always rolls back to his ex. Bird's Eye, because every bird caught his eye. Pampers, because he was a massive wet wipe. IKEA, no instructions, had to build him up only to watch it all crumble in front of me and then be recycled. Netto, because I'm embarrassed to admit I've been there. Heinz, because he has 57 different personalities. Sillet Bang, one argument and he was gone. And lastly, Forever 21, because he won't grow up. Just gave me a laugh. I think it's when you're in a situation where you can't laugh. You're in a silent bedroom with two toddlers, making sure they're asleep. And it was like splitting my seams reading that. So I hope that gave you a little laugh. Now onto the emails. So this email says, how's the social media detox going? Charlotte, hope you're good. I've been loving the podcast, having only discovered it a couple of months ago, and I'm really intrigued to see how the social media detox is going. You inspired me to take some time off social, and I have to say, it's done my mental health wonders. Are you still detoxing? Oh, love this. Holding me to account. You hold me to account. That is what I wanted. Firstly, I'm glad you've been inspired by my detox and it's helped you mentally, because that's ultimately what I was putting out there when I started the detox. So for those of you who are new here, I decided on, I think it was like the 31st of December, that I wasn't going to wake up and just scroll on my phone. I was going to be mindful about not going on social media. And I'll tell you the truth, I have massively cut back my social media use. For this podcast, full disclosure, I have two accounts. I have one on Instagram and one on TikTok, and I know that's where a lot of you found me. So I do use those. At first, when I started my detox, I was literally allowing myself to go on the platform, post and come off. And I did that for about a month. I didn't scroll on the feeds. I didn't go on stories. I posted, I responded to comments, I responded to messages, and then I would come off the platform. Yeah, so that lasted for about a month. Since then, so we're now the 25th of Feb, so almost 2 months in, and I've been on my personal Instagram account twice just to check messages. I refrain from going on stories. I refrain from going on my the home feed. And do you know what? I feel like I haven't got as much noise in my head, because on Instagram, I was following various influencers, families, and it got to the point where I knew what this family in Arizona and another family in Texas were doing by the hour, pretty much, because they post that many stories. And I'm thinking to myself, why do I need to know? Why is that flooding my brain, what they're doing? I don't think it was affecting me in a making me down way. It was affecting me in a headspace way. You know, as mums, we have so many thoughts going through our head anyway. Do we really need to know what some family across the other side of the world's doing every day? Every day. And I think you really get attached to these people because you see them so much. And it's just harmless scrolling on stories. I literally just go on my stories, flick across, see what people were doing. And you think that's completely harmless. But when you come away from it for 2 months, you think, my head is so much clearer. It's so much clearer. And I've really benefited from it. Admittedly, I do go on TikTok now, so I do post on my TikTok, but I also go on the feed. I find with TikTok there's less of an attachment. It's more learning things. The way my algorithm is, because of obviously what I've clicked on, is recipes, toddler activity ideas, a lot on the Blake and Justin Baldoni case, which we won't go into. I've spoken about that before. God almighty, I got down a hole the other week with that. But yeah, I think you can kind of control TikTok a little bit more in that it isn't consistent content from the same people. And I think that's what makes Instagram so addictive, whereas TikTok's a little bit more have a flick through, have a scroll through, see a funny video, see a recipe. That's how I treat it. And I've managed to be really disciplined with it. So whilst I'm not completely cold turkey on social media, I am scaled 80% back from what I was. I have days where I'm like, oh, I've not been on TikTok today. And it's like 6 p.m. And it's like, oh, great. You know, I don't feel like I've missed out. So if you haven't considered having a detox, obviously this mum who's emailed in, this listener, it's really helped her. And if I'm being completely honest, it's really helped me as well. Not that I was down from being on it, but that I was just so consumed by it. And there's that saying, isn't there? If it's free, you're the product. So social media is using you, and it's finding a way to use social media and finding ways to make you feel good, whether that's following certain accounts or just restricting your time on there. So yeah, to answer your question, thank you for holding me account. Thank you for listening. Yeah, I am 80% still detoxing, and it's been great, and I really would recommend it to anybody else listening. On a separate note, I found a funny forum post for you. And I've shared stories like this before in the past, and it's funny sleep deprived moments. I think they just give us a bit of a laugh, don't they? Because especially if you're in the first few weeks or months, you can feel like you're barely functioning. And when you hear about the silly or the crazy or the funny things or the people or the parents do when they are chronically sleep deprived, it makes you feel a little bit better. So hopefully this helps. The original poster put, tell me about your funny sleep deprived moments. I took my baby for a walk, and when I returned home, she started getting fussy. So I asked my wife if she fed the baby while I was out. Next person says, one time I went to the restroom to pee. I sat down on the toilet, but something did not feel right. I realised instead of pulling my pants down, I took my shirt off. I mean, that's next level sleep deprivation, isn't it? And then someone else has put similar for me, but I forgot to put the seat cover up. I have done that in the past when I was a lot younger and I was desperate for the loo, and it is not great. The next one says, not funny initially, in that what happened could have been potentially very dangerous, but has a nice ending. So this person put, I fell asleep on my way back to work while stationary at the lights after getting probably an hour's sleep when my then 3-month-old had been up pretty much the whole night. The police happened to be a couple of cars back, and when I didn't move, the lights went green and they pulled me over to the side street. After doing an alcohol and drug test, they asked me what was going on, and I explained. Policeman asked me for my phone, rang my workplace, and said I wouldn't be coming in today. They drove me home. He drove me home while his buddy followed in my car. No fine, just a warning to get some sleep. The policeman who drove me back said he had kids and understood. Oh, I love that camaraderie. It's like, been there, but don't do that again. This one says, I was unloading the dishwasher and realised after about 5 minutes that I'd been chucking all the plates in the bin rather than putting them in the cupboard. Was going to wash my hands and brush my teeth and ended up washing my hands with my toothpaste. My fiancé reverted back to his original programming and started talking to me in Polish. I speak English mainly and can sometimes understand Polish if I pay attention to context clues. And then someone's commented, poor guy, he had a hard reset. I was about to take a sip of the baby monitor and listen to the coffee cup. I think I've done that. I'm sure I've done that. I took a nap, woke up and saw the sun out. I ran downstairs and thanked my husband for letting me sleep throughout the night. I hugged him and kissed him because I felt so rested and ready to kick ass. He then tells me, honey, you only slept for an hour. It's 6 p.m. I almost got on my knees and started crying. Oh, God. I remember that feeling in those newborn days because you're that delirious. If you do nap, it could be the morning, it could be the early hours, or you could have just had an hour. And yeah, I feel it. Next one says, today I tried to press pause on our video monitor when our baby started crying. Don't I wish it worked that way? Good one. Thought we had birds in our house, looking all over for them. Then we realised the noise was following us, and then I realised it was the phone alarm. And this last one says, I connected my breast pumps without the bottles, and I got into bed sitting up. I noticed I was covered in breast milk after about 5 minutes of pumping, and my bedding was soaked. Oh, that's an annoying one, that, isn't it? Oh, that is just like, who wants a bedding change when you've just got into bed? I hope they gave you a little bit of a lift. And if you've done anything daft in the last few weeks, or you just feel completely and utterly zonked, then hopefully that will help you realise that we're all going through this craziness. And even now with my youngest is 2.5, I have days where I'm like super tired. So to all you mums of newborns out there, keep going. It's okay to be completely sleep deprived. Just stay safe is my advice. Next tonight is what's trending. I think by now you may have all seen the Mel Robbins Let Them theory. It's been trending online for the last, since the new year, really. If you don't know, Mel Robbins has a podcast. I think it ranks consistently in the global top 10. It's a really popular one. And she's considered one of the most sought after experts in life improvement, mindset, behavior change, etc. And her theory that she's spoken really widely about lately, I think she even has a book, it's called the Let Them theory. And basically, it's when you let someone do whatever it is they want to do, it creates more control and emotional peace for you and a better relationship with the people involved. Now, if you are very empathetic like me, I can have this tendency to want to fix people's problems. So say if it's a family member going through something, I can be very much wanting to get involved, wanting to help. It comes from a really good place. It doesn't come from a controlling place. It comes from a place of empathy. When you see someone struggling, and you want to help, but it's also when then people don't want to be helped. And it's this theory of just let them do what they want to do, because it isn't your battle. And it's realizing that other people are in control of their own destiny. And it's just about let them do what they do. And the less you can get involved and the less you can let it consume your daily energy, the better. And it made me think of the postpartum weeks, months, when a lot of relationships change. And I've spoken about this quite a few times in the podcast in the past. It's very common for people to lose friends. It's very common for people to lose family members after having a baby. And it stems from that person not really showing the interest you thought they would in the baby. Whether that's visiting, whether that's dropping you a message and asking how the baby is. And I think when you're an empathetic person like myself, you can't imagine being in a situation where you wouldn't check in on a friend who's just had a baby. It would seem like mad. Even if it's not visiting, if you live far away, it's just a message. Congratulations, hope you're doing well. And then a few weeks later, how's everything going? It doesn't take much, but a lot of people don't, and a lot of relationships change. And this theory, I think, of let them is really crucial for you in when you are experiencing those relationship shifts. Because I can guarantee pretty much everyone listening can think of someone who they've kind of had a relationship change with, whether it's a friend or a family member or whatever. And it can be because you're on different paths now. When you have a child, that consumes you, doesn't it? For the first, for years at least. It's just, especially in the early first year, it's all consuming completely and utterly. And it does mean for mums, we get to go out less, we get to see people less in those early days. And yeah, relationships can change. And I think it's just realizing that the more we let go and let them, the better we sleep at night, because you can get really wound up, especially when you're hormonal after having a baby. Things can really get to you. I remember it. And I look back and I think it probably should have just let them and not thought about it. But you are going to. It is going to bug you. I just really like this concept of let them. So if something's bothering you at the moment and it's kind of out of your control, try and take this on board and try and release yourself from other people's battles, other people's fights, other people's problems that you can't control. Because the chances are, you may think people are thinking of you, but they might not always be. And you're using all your energy up thinking about other people. And it's best just to kind of focus on yourself, fill your own cup up, and take that Mel Robbins advice on, that the more we let people crack on with what they want to do, the better we feel. And you feel kind of a sense of release and relief. And it's not always possible, especially if it's a close family member or a close friend going through something or doing something that you can't help but want to stop or prevent. Obviously, there are situations when you can't just go, let them. It's not right all the time. But when it is, and when it is a situation you genuinely don't have any sway over, it is good to go, I can't do anything here. It's using a lot of my mental energy. I'm going to let them. So I hope that helps. It's worth listening to her podcast. And if you're really interested in it, buying her book. I know a few people who've read it and said it's just brilliant. It's like one of those life-changing books I think it's called The Let Them Theory. But yeah, if you just Google Mel Robbins, it'll come up. Next tonight is my self-care tip. And tonight I am sharing with you the 20-minute rule. And this is where you spend a minimum of 20 minutes on something for yourself every day. And I'm not talking about washing, I'm not talking about ironing or putting clothes away. I'm talking about just doing something for you. And it doesn't have to be huge. It could be listening to a podcast, reading, having a bath, going for a walk. But you have to be really intentional with that time and not feel guilt, not feel, oh, I should be with the baby right now, but I'm doing this and this is really guilt. It's making me feel guilty. And you need to be very intentional with that time, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And there's this thing with mum guilt where maybe we're having a bath and we could think, oh, if the baby needs us, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. I've had too long. I've had over half an hour. Oh, it's too long. And you almost beat yourself up. But actually, what you're doing by having that bath is making yourself a better parent for that baby, because when you come down from said bath, if you're anything like me, you're like a new person and you feel rejuvenated, you feel happier and more calm and tranquil. The same can be said for going for a walk, for going to the gym, for going for a meal with a good friend, whatever makes you feel good, whatever makes you feel happy. I was actually talking about this with two of my good friends, and one of them is a perinatal therapist, and I need to get her on the podcast because she's so knowledgeable in perinatal, postpartum, and she was saying the same thing. Like, you have to remove the guilt. You have to spend that time very intentionally for yourself and to basically fill your cup. All of us mums need our cups refilling, and it's very easy to forget to recharge, to think, go 24/7, because you essentially are. You go 24/7, and that's whether you're at home with the kids or whether you work, 9 to 5 or whatever you do, and then you're with the kids, and then you're with the kids in the night. So it's almost therapeutic to have, if you can do longer than 20 minutes, great. But if you can't and you are stretched, just try and get your partner or someone close to you to watch the baby for 20 minutes. And just, even if you just go and lie in your bed and just be like, no, I'm zoning out. I'm having a minute for myself. Don't fold the laundry. Don't do the washing. It's very tempting. I did that the other night. I came upstairs for a bit of peace and I ended up folding a mound of washing. And I just felt like super tired then. I was like, I should have just took that time. I should have ignored that mound for another day and had a minute, because I am feeling my back a lot now. I'm 6 months pregnant. And I think it's easy to just crack on when you've got two young kids as well. But yeah, whether you've got multiple children, whether you're pregnant or not, you have to take that time to be intentional and just be really kind to yourself, and just set yourself a target every day, 20 minutes. And it can't be when you're cooking the tea either. You just have to ask for that break. And recommend it to your partner as well. Say, like, you have 20 minutes, I have 20 minutes. Jason and I used to do that quite a bit of an evening. He'd say, you go and have an hour, then I'll have an hour, and then we'll put them down. Some nights it's best to do that and just split the evening after tea between you so that you're both getting a bit of a rest. Yeah. I hope that helps, and I hope that you can find the time to fill your cup. Finally, to finish on a quote I wrote. At 2:45 a.m, you lay your head on the pillow, Mama. It's been a long night already, and you're exhausted. As your eyes begin to close, you hear me stir again. How, you think? It's only been 10 minutes. How will you pull yourself up, scoop me out of my crib, and feed me again? But you do. With aching limbs, puffy eyes, and sore nipples, you comfort me like it's a breeze. My fingers curl around yours tightly, comforted by your smell, heartbeat, and warmth. The cluster feeding is next level for you. Constant, like nothing you've done before. But you do. You realise, since becoming a mama, you have a superhuman strength. You give from an empty cup, so I thrive. It feels never ending right now, Mama. But know this, that this season gets so much easier. Soon these tiny fingers wrapped around yours will be grown. Stay strong, Mama. You've got this. Thank you for listening tonight and being here as always. If you have any recommendations for the podcast, anything you think would be good for me to include, any segments, any, I don't know, let me know your feedback about the live episode as well. If you think that would be good for us to have a bit more of a two-way conversation as I'm recording, I'd love to know what you think. So drop me an email, thenightfeedpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter as well. Just head to my website. It's all in the show notes. And yeah, you'll get your weekly reminder when the podcast is live. And I wish you all a restful, peaceful night ahead. Good night.